Well, hello and good evening all. Good evening. Welcome to the PPAC. Welcome to the Third Ward Town Hall meeting. We've had 3 of these so far, and this is the time for the Third Ward to have theirs. And so we have our council member from the Third Ward with us. He will give you some greetings. We also have members of the administration who will briefly introduce themselves, and then we will get right into it. And this is a non-political event, so politics should be checked at the door. This is just my administration reporting to you and having an opportunity to engage in conversations with you, answer your questions, address your concerns, and just be civil in our exchange. And so with that said, I will ask Councilman McRae to bring greetings, and then we will go from left to right with introductions from members of the administration. We will not spend much time with that. We'll go right to questions from you.
Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Well, welcome to the Third Ward. I'm Charles McRae, the Third Ward Councilman here, and we appreciate the mayor and his administration coming to the Third Ward to listen to what our residents in the Third Ward have to talk about. Any issues that you may come to your mind, feel free to ask, because this is an open exchange. As the mayor said, this is for the administration to listen and you to talk. So let's make sure we get as much out as we can in the time allotted. So welcome, and I'll turn it back over to the mayor and his administration.
Now we will go to the business administrator. She'll say who she is.
Business administrator. Hi, I'm Abby Levinson. I'm the business administrator and the HR director for the city.
Good evening. My name is James Foster Jr., and I'm the superintendent of solid waste and sewer. Good evening. My name is James Foster Jr., and I'm the superintendent of solid waste and sewer.
Good evening. My name is James Abbey. I'm the director of the police department.
Good evening. I'm Director Childress, Director of the Fire Department.
Hi, I'm Janice Clayton Hunt. I'm the Director of Communications and Technology and Chief of Staff.
Good evening. I'm Zenobia Fields, the Director of Economic Development.
Good evening. Okay, Dabney, Director of the Department of Public Works.
And so since we want to give you all the time possible, this is scheduled to go for about 2 hours, we'll get right into the questions. And I believe we have a microphone that will be brought to you. It won't be handed to you. We will keep holding the mic while you pose your questions, express your concerns. So the next fight, expect to have the mic in your hand. We will control the mic. So, anyone? And there are some people online, so we will take questions online as well.
Will you stand here?
And please give your name and your address.
Sure. Hi, my name is Janet Bostic. I live at 421 West 7th Street here in Plainfield. And I have a few questions. I sent a letter to my councilman, who I'm just meeting really face-to-face tonight, back in the summer. Okay. A lot of movement, is it? Okay. My concern, I have a number of concerns. West 7th Street is a county road. I understand that. But there's some beautiful homes on it, mine being probably one of the most beautiful as far as I'm concerned. I take good care of my property. However, the houses in the area, which are as large, they have turned into group homes. So in the summertime, it's like, The Walking Dead. Somebody has stopped, hopefully it's the police department, some of the residents of the group homes from out there collecting money. Stop for a light and then come up to your car and start begging for money, which I really, really resented. And they've started for the first time parking along the, I don't know whether it's east, southwest side of 7th Street. So when you come up 7th Street, say if you're coming from Rock Avenue and you get to Central Avenue right there by the Black United Fund building, if you want to make a right, which is a lot of the case on Central Avenue, the cars are parked along the side of the street so cars can't go around it. So I sent a letter, to the city, they said talk to the county, I sent a letter to the county, they said talk to the city. I think that there should be a no parking area or sign there that allows cars and traffic to flow easily so that there's not this jam of traffic as a result of a light. And finally, I'm not going to take up too much time, regarding the group homes, I don't know how many group homes are in Sleepy Hollow. I don't know how many are on West 8th Street, there, where you live. But I know I don't want to see any more where I live. I don't want to see any more group homes. I've been living on West 7th Street since 1995. I have never been allowed or able to let my children play outside. They're all grown women now, living all over the country. But I have grandchildren. And one of my grandchildren just made me a great-grandmother. My granddaughter said to me when I said, let's take him outside, she said, you live in the ghetto. I said, I live in the ghetto. She's from North Carolina, so what she done? But I mean, she's afraid because of the people that she sees in the area. Because I think that the area, and this is kudos to all of you, and particularly to you, Mayor, I like what I see in Plainfield. I like it. I mean, it's changing. I'm getting a little tired of the apartment buildings blocking the sunshine. There's no sunshine on South Avenue anymore. I think we've got enough of that. But I think that as far as this group home thing goes, there should be more monitoring of it. The people who own them should be forced to take better care of it, paint, do their lawns, their landscaping, just like I do. Take better care so that it's not an eyesore to the community when you come up Central Avenue. And definitely have more control over the people who live there. And I'm done. Thank you.
So you said a number of things, and I'm going to ask the police director to address some of it. I'm going to ask the director of economic development, to whom code enforcement reports, to address some of what you said. But I must also tell you that we don't choose to have group homes in our city. It is not something that we encourage. There are group homes in the city that we don't know they exist and that they are there. And many people don't know that they are there. I recall when I first came onto the council, then Corporation Counsel, the late Jackie Draper, spoke about a case involving a group home on Central Avenue that went to court and the city lost because a group home is said to be a family. And so I don't know how much that we can do about group homes that exist in the city, but what we can do is enforce our code, our laws, as far as the upkeep of the properties are concerned. And that's why I said I would ask Director Fields, to whom code enforcement reports, to speak on that in terms of how vehicles turn from 7 onto Central. That would be a police matter, and that's where Director Avenue comes in. And if there's anyone else from the team that thinks that they have some answers that they can provide, feel free to do that as well. Let's start with Police Director Avenue.
Once again, good evening. Yes, I did speak with you, ma'am. I think I received at least one email in regards to your house. And you said 421 West 7th Street. I know exactly what you were going to talk about. I know there was an issue with parking in front of your house and related to the buff, I guess, when it was there. People park in the driveway and get out. I think we were able to alleviate some of that. In terms of those individuals who live in that group home, the group home is actually, there's two of them, they're actually on Central Avenue by West 5th Street. They usually walk up, stand on the side of the road, and beg for change and stuff like that. We've taken care of a lot of that. There were two individuals in particular who were doing that. We've addressed that with the group home. I think some of these people who are in these group homes have, obviously, mental health issues and some of these things. So it's not a place where we're trying to arrest them, because arresting them does not fix the problem. What we have been doing is trying to work with the group homes, take care of these individuals, make sure that they understand, and the people who are in charge of their supervision understand that they will not be allowed to stand out in the street and beg. It won't be tolerated. And I think we've had a lot of success with that. So I think that's going to work out very well for everybody involved. In terms of the county roadway, the best I can do is this. I'll work with Director Dabney. We work very well together. We'll see about, we'll work it out for you. I won't talk about it right now. We'll work that situation out for you.
I appreciate it.
You got it, no problem.
And I thank you for responding. You are the only municipal official who did respond. And I sent it to quite a few, including my councilman, who never did respond. Thank you.
In terms of property maintenance, if there's anything with that outside of the building, so if they have trash that they're leaving outside, if you feel like the building is disrepair of any kind, we can have our property maintenance inspector come out to the property. They'll serve a warning of a violation, and then they'll get a citation. They'll have 10 days to clean it up. If they don't do that, then they actually get a fine and a possible summons. So I just need the address.
And it's important that when issues arise in terms of maintenance, that they be brought to our attention and we'll take action. There's some group homes in the city that you don't even know they're group homes. On Central Avenue, going south on Central Avenue, there's a group home that has been there for decades. No one knows that it's there. There's one on East Front Street as you approach Terror Road. And most people probably don't know that that's there. So it depends on who is running these group homes and the level of care that they exercise in terms of how these facilities are run. But we will definitely take a look at what's happening on the northern side of Central from 7th Street going towards 6th Street.
Thank you.
It's your meeting.
Based on the number of apartment buildings that are going up, I mean, I am a former Port Authority of New York, New Jersey employee for 35 years. So I know how it works. I was in the Office of Government and Community Affairs. I understand tax abatements, I understand entitlements, I understand all of that. However, as a resident and taxpayer of Plainfield, I'd like to know how many of these buildings are tax abated. Do they pay the full amount of taxes? My common sense is already telling me the answer to that. However, I'd like to know, how much of it offsets our payment, and for how long? How long are their tax abatements for?
So I'm going to ask Director Fields to take a stab at that, but I will come after her. Director Fields.
Sure. So the properties that you're seeing on South Avenue, some of them have a payment in lieu of taxes. That was an incentive to get them to invest. So this is going in and out. Part of what we're looking at is that if we didn't offer that incentive, the property would be underutilized or still vacant. So the way it offsets the taxes is that you're looking at a property that may have been collecting, let's say, $1.5 million in taxes. After they have the improvement where they're putting up so many apartments or commercial buildings, we're seeing that is on average, you're seeing over 30 years, you're getting $60 million. So you're going from $1.5 million to $60 million. So the way that offsets the taxes is that that's not being passed on you as an increase. We're getting this revenue every year coming in from not only the payment in lieu of taxes, because they're paying a percentage of what they're getting from rent, but you're also getting a community benefit. And if you look at the community benefit that we're getting, on average, we're looking at anywhere from $3.5 to $5 million a year. So that's something that doesn't have to go on in taxes. So all of it gets put back to the community where we're working with the developers and investment partners.
And just let me add this. It is important that our residents know that pilots payment in lieu of taxes, that doesn't mean that developers are not paying taxes. It's just a different formula. The taxes that we as homeowners pay is considered or is known as conventional taxes, which is based on the assessed value of the property times the tax rate, and you arrive at your assessment in terms of taxes. And you are assessed by the county, by the Board of Education, and by the city. Whereas for pilot, it is based on a percentage of gross revenues. And when we look at these projects that have been built across the city, all of them have been built on vacant, blighted lands, where the average amount of taxes generated annually would have been maybe $10,000, $15,000. So if you multiply $10,000 times 30 years, I think that gives you what, about $300,000 for 30 years. Compared to if you develop that same lot and you give a pilot that is based on an escalation factor, maybe 9% for the first 10 years, 12% for the next 10 years, and then maybe 12–15% for the final 10 years. The amount of taxes that we would collect on that same parcel as a result of the development would be as much as anywhere from $35 to $50 million over that same 30-year time period, compared to $3 million if we left it as is. Not to mention the fact that it invites negative things that we don't want to see in our city, which is one of the reasons why I think the director can boast of the fact that crime is down significantly, because we have removed those vacant, blighted properties from our landscape, those properties that were attracting negative activity. And so, if we take this year's budget, and the good news is that we're going to be introducing a budget next week with a 0% tax increase. It's even better than that. The taxes for the average payer will go down by $10 and I believe 15 cents. You may say that's not a lot of money. Compared to an increase, it makes a difference. Now, if you took the pilot revenues out of the budget, your taxes this year would go up by $301, the average taxpayer, if we remove pilot revenues from the budget. So I say all of this to say that these investments, these multi-story mixed-use developments, make sense. They are reducing the tax burden on all property owners in the city of Plainfield. And that's money that you will keep in your pocket. Had it not been for the pilot revenues that will be in the budget that will be introduced next week, you would have to be coughing up an additional $301 this year. And you don't have to do that, because you will see a decrease on the average of $10 and change. So pilots, they make sense, they improve and transform neighborhoods, and they lessen the burden on property owners. So I said next week I am lost in terms of the days. We actually introduced the budget last night.
Good evening. my name is Sharon Rosario, 1418 Bradford. First of all, I just want to say thank you guys for expediting my refund for my property that was not a menace. But my question is that, my question is, when is we going to see an improvement on Bradford Street? I'm still being waken up on my off day at 6:30 in the morning from the traffic coming through with the big 18-wheelers. And are we going to be one of the blocks that get the speed bumps? And also, when is Grace in Bradford or Johanna's Place in Bradford and Front Street going to see an improvement? We would like some of that gentrification to come down too, that we're seeing all over Plainfield.
Now, first of all, we don't want to see gentrification because that would push you out. And
well,
we don't want
I feel pushed out. That's why I said that specific word.
Yeah, we
so
want you
you
to
can't
stay
take that
ahead.
from me.
Okay.
Okay, let me have my opinion and let me state what I'm saying.
And I understand you, but there are people that are listening online, and I just want to make sure for the benefit of everyone. Okay. So, in terms of what's happening, and I know you've been at council meeting
all the time.
Yes.
You know, we've spoken
Absolutely.
plenty of times.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me.
Yes.
But
so,
again, I really want to see some improvement on my blocks. The speeders, the 18-wheelers. Like I said to you, about a month or two ago, how would you feel to be waking up at 6:30 in the morning every morning by a big truck coming down your block? How would you feel about it?
Not good.
Exactly. I mean, Alfred Avenue, he tried to place a cop car out there. They're still running a stop sign. People are just disrespecting our block, and I feel like something needs to be done. So that's why I'm here and I'm speaking.
Okay. And I appreciate you bringing up this issue again. Director Avenue, what can we do about 18-wheelers? I don't think that's, that street is not, why 18-wheelers on that street?
The issue here is that there is a local auto parts store there in that area, and they get deliveries in the morning. The deliveries come early in the morning, and that's why we have an issue with traffic on those types of vehicles coming down Bradford at that time. The best we can do is possibly try to work with the owner of that business, explain that it's affecting the residents in the area, and see if he can possibly get his delivery set for a later time. That's the best we can do. In terms of the speed humps, myself and Director Dabney have already discussed that. We are working on that diligently. There are numerous speed humps that are going in all over town. If we can somehow change a few things down here, we're going to try to help. Part of it is that we had to wait until the weather got a little bit warmer. We can't put speed ups in the winter time. There are some factors there that have been in play that we're working on. But we are working on it. When you got up, I knew exactly what you were going to talk about. So I don't want you to feel like we're slighting you. It's just that some of these things take time. Some of these issues we can fix overnight. Some of them we need a little bit of time to get things in order so we can take care of them for you. That conversation with Wilson Auto Parts, I guarantee you will take place tomorrow or Friday. One of those days it will take place, and we'll see what we can do, and I'll give you an answer back in regards to what they say. In terms of the beautification of the area, some of that is part of what the mayor was talking about a little while ago when we were talking about blighted properties across the town and pilots. What you get is something that's called a broken window theory, which basically is if we break the window out of this church and we leave it broken over a period of time, another window will get broken, and then another window will get broken. When you improve blighted areas or areas that are having problems, what you do is you show the bad actors in the community that we have taken our community back and we have respect for our community. When we do that, it lowers the crime rate. So that's what you see with the blighted properties that the mayor was talking about a few minutes ago, and that's what we may see in your area. as we focus more efforts into that area around Wilson Auto Parts, because that's the auto parts company that we're talking about, we should be able to improve everything for you in that area. And I hope that helps, but please, give us a little bit more time and we'll get taken care of.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we assure you that we are not ignoring you. We will follow up and we'll get you some solutions. You're welcome.
Just to follow up, Mayor, we are also looking at doing studies in that area, particularly because if you look at Clinton and West Front Street, so Clinton and West Front Street going towards the east, we're looking at a possible redevelopment of that retail because we want to bring back that retail in that area. Then when you look at Clinton and you mentioned Johanna's, Grace Place, and down to the Cow, what we're looking to do there is also looking at possibilities of redevelopment, mixed housing, some commercial. Because it had thriving commercial, we want to balance it out where we have the activity that we are moving down from the central business district down to the West End. So the mayor and Director Dabney, they have already spoken about what's happening over on Rushmore Avenue with the Aquatic Center. We have some developments that have already happened or at the Mack Truck Building. We are looking at another development that's right by the development by Dunkin' Donuts at that corner. There's going to be another development, a possibility of a rooftop restaurant going in over there.
And it was brought to my attention that Councilor Julianne Cherry, Councilor for the First and Full Board, just came in, so I want to recognize her. I was also told that Councilor for the Second Ward, Dr. Darcella Sessions, also came in. So I just want to recognize her, as well as the Councilor from the Fourth Ward, Councilor Terry Bridges Jones. I just want to acknowledge the presence of the council members that are here. We'll continue with questions. There's one up front here. Where's the mic?
Good evening. My name is Linda Washington Hammond. I live at 1317 Stillman Avenue, the last house in Plainfield, the next door neighbors South Plainfield. My question is directed for the taxes. You said that 0% on the rent collected for the new housing, new apartments going up. So they're vacant. Are you collecting taxes on vacant apartments? And the other one is, there was a big rumor about our taxes going up to 36% for the school board. Is that still, I mean, you said 0% increase, but is that still an issue?
So I will address.
Thank you.
So just to correct something that you said in your question, I didn't state that it's 0% on the pilots. It's 0% on conventional taxes. Pilots are different from conventional taxes. So for all of us who pay conventional taxes, who get that tax bill every year, it will be a 0% increase for all of us. And I said it will be even better than that. It will be actually a reduction of about $10 and change. That for us who get that tax bill every year. Those projects that are built with pilots, payment in lieu of taxes, there is a formula whereby, based on the gross revenues collected on each of those developments, the city, based on the financial agreement, and normally there's an escalation. Normally for the first 10 years, it's 1% of the gross revenue. For the next 10 years, a higher percent of the gross revenue. And then for the final 10 years of the 30, there's an even higher percent of the gross revenue. So the percentage increases every 10 years on all pilots. But pilots pay taxes. It just goes by different names. You can call it a pilot tax versus what you pay is a conventional tax. But every one of these developments that receive a pilot, they all pay taxes, just by a different name. The name is a pilot. Was there another part of your?
36%.
Oh, the 36%. Now, how could I forget that piece? We all get a tax bill every year that is comprised of municipal taxes. That's the piece that's controlled by the municipality based on a budget that is introduced by my administration. The council then votes on that budget. That's the municipal portion of your tax bill. There's another portion of your tax bill that is from Union County. We have nothing to do with that. And then there's a third piece from the Board of Education, which again, we have nothing to do with that. The superintendent and the 9 members of the board are the ones that determine what that is. And so over a month or so ago, they proposed to raise taxes by 36%, which is just outrageous for all of us. And so we spoke out very strongly against that. We didn't think that it took into consideration what homeowners are facing, especially with everything, costs on everything is going up. And so to introduce a budget, the Board of Education, to introduce a budget where they were proposing a 36% tax increase on all property owners, we thought that was very inconsiderate for the plight of all taxpayers, especially our seniors that are on fixed income. And so we spoke up very loudly against that. And I'm told that they have attempted to roll that back. There was an initial attempt to roll it back by half, I'm told. And the latest that I've been told is that they are looking to move it from 36% to 0. Now, that has to be voted on by the 9-member board, I believe, at its next meeting. So until they make that decision, until they vote at the next meeting, it is still 36%, which is outrageous. And so we must wait and see, but I want to make it clear, that has nothing to do with my administration, it has nothing to do with the council. That's the Board of Education.
So what's the percentage now for
The percentage now from the board?
the Board of Education?
So the Board of Education has not raised taxes in the last 6 years. Now, there's a mechanism that the state gives to the Board of Education, whereby it can gradually increase taxes. And it has chosen not to do that. And this year, as you see, they also are able to increase taxes. But instead of doing it by a reasonable amount, they opted to do it by 36%. But they have the ability to gradually increase taxes, and they have chosen for the last 6 years not to do it. And so there has been an attack on the city from the Board of Education that claims that pilots are taking money from the school district. That is not true. That is totally and absolutely false. The same way that the school district could have increased taxes this year if they so choose by a reasonable amount. They could have done it 6 years ago, 5 years ago by a gradual amount, 4 years ago by a gradual amount, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago. But that responsibility of fiscal management is lacking. And so there you have it, a proposed 36% tax increase, and that's under their control, not on ours. And I'm sure you know the school budget is made up of two pieces. It's made up of state aid, and there's some federal grants too. But for the most part, the school budget is made up of state aid and the tax levy, where they send a bill to the city, and the city has to pay them whatever they ask the city for. So they ask the city for 26 million, we have to write them a check for 26 million. If they ask for 27 million, we have to write them a check for 27 million. That is the only mechanism provided to the school district to get money from the taxpayers and from the municipality. And it is up to the Board of Education to use that mechanism wisely so that the burden of 36% isn't, placed on taxpayers in one fell swoop. It's just unreasonable.
Well, does the money go towards the kids, educating the children, or is it on high salaries of so many different levels of higher principal, deputy, superintendent, one superintendent, two?
In all fairness, I can't comment on that. I can tell you where the salaries for the city go, where the budget, the monies for the city goes. I can explain that. I know how that is handled. I can't speak to the $338 million budget that the school district has and how they manage that $338 million. I can't speak on that. But that's a good question.
So how can we find out? Can we
I don't know that it had been made public as of yet. We haven't seen it. The city hasn't seen it.
Good evening. Kwame Chalmers, 12270 East Front Street, apartment 43B. Just a point of clarification, because I don't know if it came over, that 36% would not be on your total, right? It would only have been proposed for the school tax portion of your bill, not your entire bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so now also at the last school board meeting, I believe that they got it down to a 0% increase. They got it down from the 36 to a 0% increase at the last school board meeting. Yes, it has to be finally voted on, but they got that down to 0, so that's taken care of. Also, after speaking to Rashawn, yes, they recognize that they need it, but at any time, no one wants to have taxes raised, whether it be 1%, 0.5%, or any percent. Nobody wants their taxes to be raised. So it's always been a problem with a kicking the can down the road situation. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with not being fiscally responsible. It has everything to do with politics. And to say that city council doesn't have anything to do with what happened at the school is just not true. And even though we know that we have nonpartisan elections, we know very well that people run candidates who they want to see. So there's always a back and forth, and if there's not, there should be. Because as the leader of the city, you're also the leader of where our kids go to school in their future. So you should want to know what's happening in the school. You should want to have open communication with the school board. You guys should be working hand in hand. These are the two biggest budgets and employers in the city. You guys need to be working hand in hand. And so for that level of whatever y'all got going on for the city is ridiculous. Now, if we're talking about taxes and how much the schools are asking for, we don't know how much money they should be getting on the pilot. So let's say they should be getting $10 and they only ask for 6. You're going to give them the 6. What happens to the other 4? If it was a conventional tax, you would see on that tax bill how much of what you're getting goes towards the school. We don't see that in the pilot. So out of the pilot money, how much of that money is earmarked for the public school? And you can always over the budget of the school if you want to know where it's going. You should see how much are going to these charter schools. If you want to talk about exorbitant salaries for nothing, you need to see how much money is going to these charter schools. But I just need to know how much of that pilot money that you're collecting is actually earmarked for our public schools.
I like to do with facts. So fact number one is that the council, nor the mayor, neither one of us has anything at all to do with the Plainfield public schools. We do not control their budget. We do not influence their budget. We do not manage their budget. So I just want to state that fact for the record, that the council, the 7 members on the Plainfield governing body, nor me, as mayor, we have nothing to do with the operation, with the budget of the Plainfield School District. That's a fact. I must also tell you that the state of New Jersey has provided a mechanism known as an A4F. That is the form that must be sent from the school district to the city of Plainfield. That form has to be notarized by the CFO and by the municipal clerk. That form is then sent back to the school district. That form is then sent down to the New Jersey Department of Education, and that is what determines the amount of money that the school district gets. And they get what they ask for. Every dime. We can't give them a dime less. We can't give them a dime more. Statutorily, they get what they ask for. Now, there are things that happen that impact the taxes that are paid by property owners of this city. And we have no control over how much we send to the school district. It is a statutory requirement, and we follow the law. Now, when we send that full amount that is asked for by the Board of Education, by the school district, and we have to issue a refund to any one of you that's paying taxes in this city, when we have to issue a refund to 100% disabled veterans, the school district doesn't get to give any of that back. We have to give the whole thing back to the property owner. The school district still keeps the 100% that they ask for and that we send to them. There's also something known as a reserve for uncollected taxes, which is like a bad debt reserve, which the school district doesn't contribute to that. And the school district, school boards in general, and every CFO in this state, and there has to be 564 of them because there are 564 municipalities. Every CFO, the New Jersey League of Municipalities, have all taken a very firm and strong position when it comes to pilots and the notion that school districts should be getting any of the pilot payments. School boards, for the most part, they don't understand pilots, or they don't want to understand. They are in denial that they are getting all of the money that they request from the municipality. We have no choice. We can't give them anything less. And so, when you hear the argument about, well, a property was taken off the tax roll, so it impacts on how much we could ask the city for. That's not true. I mean, this year is the perfect example. They decided that they wanted to ask for 36% more. That has nothing to do with the assessment. So they could have asked last year for 2% more. The year before, they could have asked for 2% more, 3% more. But they chose not to do that for reasons that make no sense other than it's not good fiscal management. So when you hear narratives about what the municipality can do, about how much do we send to the municipality in pilots, no municipality across the state does that because pilots do not impact the finances of school districts across the state of New Jersey. They do not. And I can demonstrate that to anyone at any time. And CFOs across the state can do the exact same thing. The League of Municipalities can do the exact same thing. Don't take my word for it. Take the word of other professions. Next question, please. Do we have anyone?
Has it always been independent? It never rolled into one?
No, but there's a history to that. There was a time in Plainfield when the school board was appointed. The appointed school board was probably done away with. Let me ask the question of John Edwards Manson who was in the audience. Were you appointed or elected?
I was elected, but it was a few years before that, so the early days it was stopped.
So up until the early 80s, school boards were appointed by the mayor with advice and consent. And that was the case in several municipalities across the state. I believe there's probably only about 5 to 7 school districts that are still operating with an appointed school board. The city of Orange is one of them. They still have, and they changed about 3 years ago. I'm not sure if East Orange might still be an appointed school board, but it's just a handful. So almost every school board, and there are 564 municipalities, there are 612, I believe, school districts. So that means there's roughly 612 boards of education, 612 superintendents, and so on and so forth. So I would say for the most part, they're all elected.
Sounds like we need to start going to Board of Education meetings. You know, we don't have kids. I was really, other than maybe 2 years in Cedarville, I've never been able to send any of my children to the public school system in Plainfield.
So, I'm glad that you mentioned that, which I think that I need to make this comment. We should not be at war with pilots or with charter schools. Charter schools serve a purpose. The Plainfield Public Schools have roughly 8,700 students. The Plainfield Public Schools have said they don't have enough space, enough room to accommodate these 8,700 plus students, and that they need more space. So much so that they've been shopping around for additional space to move their administrative offices. I believe they're about to return the former Jefferson School into classrooms and move their administrative offices elsewhere. So there are 8,700 plus students in the regular Plainfield public schools at a cost of, I'm told, and I haven't seen the budget, but I'm told at a cost of roughly $33,000, $35,000 per student. So it costs that amount of money to educate a child within the regular public schools. 8,700 students. The charter schools, there are 5 charters in the city. And those 5 charters have a school population of 3,200. And it costs $18,000 to educate a student at a charter school. That's the cost per student. $18,000 in a charter public school. And note I said a charter public school, because charter schools are public schools. But for some reason, there's this war by the Board of Education on charter schools. Now, if you close those 5 charter schools tomorrow, we would be in a crisis. And parents wouldn't have a place to send their kids. And the educational outcomes in our city would further plummet. Now, mind you, the graduation rate in the Plainfield Public Schools is about 67%, less than 70%. The last numbers that I received. The graduation rate of most of our charter schools is at 100%. And the college acceptance rate is also 100%. College achieved public charter schools, 100% graduation rate, 100% college acceptance. Queen City Academy, 100% graduation rate, all college acceptance. So when you hear the false information that's being peddled that charter schools in Plainfield are failing, that they're not performing up to the level of our regular public schools, that is simply not true. The results don't bear that position out. The opposite is true. Our charters are functioning at a very high level. Graduation rates are way higher than our regular public schools. So we'll go over here.
That's too late, so they're calling out the whole time. Now raise your hand, so you're not gonna let me speak.
She was interrupted by this comment.
We will let you speak. Don't worry about that. We will let you speak. But we're going to go here right now.
Good evening. My name is Harold McRae. I live at 1263 Brunswick Avenue in Plainfield. And it just came to my attention that a drug rehab center is going to be opening up right around the corner of Moffett with Randolph Apartments are represented. I'm very opposed and to them opening up a drug center right around my neighborhood. They already have put up an apartment building right in our neighborhood where they have different people walking around the neighborhood and feeding around the block. And we have some children on our block that have special needs. So I was wondering, would you be able to put up also some signs, you know, to keep them speeding around the area? And they also have a dog problem that I spoke to the mayor about, I spoke to Mr. McRae about, and some people in the mayor's office, when I go pay my taxes, about the dog food problem in front of Randolph property. Now, I even went in there to the Randolph property and spoke to them as well. Why can't you put up a $200 fine? Because the neighbors have put up paper signs and they pay that no attention. It's a health hazard, an eyesore, and everything else when you walk around in front of these brand new apartments. You see dog poop on the curb right in front of the apartments. So anything can be done about that? And for the opening of the drug rehab center, I'm very opposed to that because that's going to bring crime to our neighborhood. That's going to bring drug addicts, former drug addicts, Jason Hardy will walk around and steal and all kinds of things, break into our home. And would you like that in your neighborhood? I wish they could find somebody else to move the drug thing.
So I think I missed your name. Can you repeat your name one more time?
Harold Green, 1263 Florence Avenue, right around the corner of my fifth and Randolph. I ran into you and your beautiful wife last year, and I told you about the dog food situation.
All right. So we will address that.
$200 fine. They got it in New York. They got it everywhere else. Why can't we have it in Texas?
So are you the person who made that Facebook post that has been receiving so many comments about what's happening at Muhlenberg?
Yeah.
Okay. So that post was brought to my attention, and I don't know if you had the opportunity to read the comments, but when I last read it, there were about 20-something, 30-something comments, all extremely positive in support of what is happening there at the Muhlenberg campus under the auspices of Rutgers University. Now, I must first tell you that Rutgers University is a creation of the state of New Jersey. And just like the Board of Education is a creation of the state of New Jersey and is not subject to local zoning, Rutgers University is not subject to local zoning. So we could not stop Rutgers University from having that business there. Nor should we have. And I'm saying that to say this. and if you see all of the comments, you will see that in this community, and in communities around the state of New Jersey, there are people who have problems with addiction. An addiction is not a habit. An addiction is a disease that should be treated. And many people, some people, don't want to have that at Muhlenberg. It has always been at that campus. When Muhlenberg Hospital was there was always a treatment facility at that hospital. You don't have to take my word for it. It's a fact. True. It's a fact. And you never saw people on the street, just like you haven't seen anyone loitering on the street in front of the Rutgers Behavioral Health Services facility there at the Muhlenberg campus. So, one second. Is this fair? For some reason, some people think that it should be elsewhere. Don't put it in Plainfield, put it in Scotch Plain. Don't put it in Scotch Plain, put it in Fanwood. The fact of the matter is, there are people who have addiction problems. And addiction is a disease that requires treatment. And oftentimes, a mental episode triggers people to go into that dark place. And they need help. So we can't turn our backs. And I would say to everyone in this audience, everyone in the city of Plainfield, don't turn your backs. Don't turn our backs on people who are at their lowest points and who need assistance. I believe that if you were to poll people in this audience, that more than half of them have people in their families that have an addiction problem. So where should those people go for treatment? Next time over?
As the police director, let me speak on this. This is something that you hear a lot in politics, a lot around the country, not in my backyard, not in my town, not in my space. The reality of it is this: we have several addiction facilities in Plainfield. The crime rate around those buildings is no different than anywhere else. As a matter of fact, there's really not much of a crime rate around those buildings. So it's an unfortunate misconception that some of us have towards our fellow man that because they have a disease, we should turn our backs on them because they're going to create a problem. But the way that these facilities are run, they're run so well that problem does not exist. So I'd like to kill that rumor right here, right now. That facility is not going to bring any problems to that neighborhood. It's not. You don't have to hope. I have the stats. You can hold me to it. Please do. Hold me to it. Because the reality is that it's not true. It's unfortunate, but it's not true. And I have other facilities here in town that show me that it's not true. And I have the history of Rutgers Behavioral Health behind me that shows me that it's not true and it's not going to happen. Just to clear that up. Thank you.
And so public service announcement, Rutgers isn't peddling drugs out of that campus. They're not. They're providing treatment to people who need treatment, who are in desperate need of having their medical condition treated. And I support that. I must acknowledge the presence of Councilman Robert Graham, who just walked in.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Wright. I'm at 1282 Marion Avenue. And this is my neighbor. She talked to me this morning while we were walking our dog. And, I told her I never knew about the drug we had. My initial reaction to it was, of course, not in my neighborhood. Because I thought it was just too close to residential homes with children in the neighborhood. And Mary, you and I had that conversation. But the same way I felt felt the same way initially about the apartments going up there. The apartment's been there for almost 4 years, and as I told you this morning, we haven't had any problems. There was some problems with littering and not keeping the ground tucked the way I thought they should. I filled out a report, and I guess you had to clean up, or had them clean it up. But, you know, for the most part, they've been keeping it clean. There's a little more people in the neighborhood, but that's not a problem. When it was a hospital, when it was a functioning hospital, cars parked all up and down our streets all the time. The employees were parking on the streets instead of parking in the parking lots. So there's no difference now. And that doesn't happen now with the apartments there. You know, it's ample parking where all the residents can park, the nursing school has parking spaces, and the medical facility will have enough parking spaces. There's more than enough parking spaces over there. I have faith that Rutgers will do the right thing. I know they're professional. I don't believe there's, going to be problems or people coming out there. Listen, when you have addiction, it is a disease. It's a disease, and people have a right to get help if they want. Either they're going to go there, they're going to get help, or they're not. And if they leave there, then they're going to go back to where they came from. They're not going to set up shop on our streets and our, next door to us, or picture tent, or just walk around in the neighborhood aimlessly. And if they do, and if there's anything like that, I'll be the first one to call the police. But it's nothing to be afraid of. I won't listen.
And as you mentioned for the record,
I'm from North as well.
So as you mentioned for the record, that my family lives less than a block away from there. Less than a block away from there. And also you mentioned about walking dogs and not picking up. Yeah. Yeah, that's an issue that is so hard to control. Last year we passed an ordinance to impose a fine on people that are found guilty of not picking up after their dogs. The issue is, how are you going to catch that person? How are you going to catch that person? Well,
by the way, they have placed signs on the pole in our neighborhood. I live there too. It was a $200 fine to curb your dog. They put one back in front of my house.
Councilman, could we
And I don't have a dog.
Could we get 2 of them along that stretch? Or not?
We'll place signs around, we'll check the surrounding area for signs, and then, yes, additional signs, we'll add additional signs. And the fine is $250, not $200.
next question, please. Do you have any questions online?
Hi everyone, my name is Teresa Perry Lewis. I do live at 1330 Randolph Place, whatever the address is. I lived for 20 years over on Columbia, and when I sold my house after I retired, I moved away, and I was glad to be back. And I just want to say, maybe I didn't hear correctly about the dogs at the Randolph. I don't have a dog, but our dogs have spots that they walk them to, and we get emails often if a dog poops or something else and it's not cleaned up. They are on top of that. So I don't have a dog. Dogs live in our building. Our building is not rent subsidy, so the dogs pay rent too. But I just kind of felt something, but that's not why my passion is coming out about the Randolph. I love the Randolph. Man, my passion is coming out about, in my clear, did you say that it's $8,000 for a public school child? Or did you say 18 for both?
No.
35.
There is about 35,000 to educate a student that goes to the Plainfield Public School? Roughly 35,000. And I haven't seen the budget, so I can't give you the exact number. But for the charter schools, it's 18,000, like half.
Half. But I'm an educator, and I'm not an educator. And I don't have anything against charter schools. I taught for 25 years in a public school, and then I came out here and gave 10 years to a charter school. And I get upset sometimes when we talk about the differences. There are some differences, and that might be why some of our public school kids don't make it to that 100%. In the charter schools, yes, there's some differences, and I guess I just need to make that clear. There's going to be some differences why the public schools don't have the same graduation rate as the charter schools. Fortunately, if you go to a charter school and you don't know how to behave, there's mechanisms to have you sent out, and where do you go? The public schools have to take you. Right. There's some instances where we have our public schools where the kids aren't given everything they need, and I'm just preaching because I'm passionate about my kids. So I understand when you say the charter school, Queen City, I gave it 10 years. I got it back. I love Queen City. I still visit Queen City. It's not about the school, it's not about charter, it's not about public, it's about kids. And that's how I feel about it. But the whole thing about, I'm glad, I'm glad Queen City has 100%, because I helped get some of those kids to that part. But my kids in public school, I wasn't in Plainfield, but my kids in public school, they're trying too. They just have more issues. And I'm rambling. I am so sorry that I'm rambling. But what I'm just trying to say is, everybody's born with the same thing. And I always refer back to when I was a child, a slave, and I hid under the bed, and my master's daughter came under that bed with a candle to teach me how to read. Everybody can learn how to read. But the charter schools have their place, but let's not forget our public schools. And it's a shame that it's costing $35,000 to teach a child in a public school, because I know where some of the money goes. So when Johnny can get his portion and Mary can get her portion, then we can have more kids graduate. And I am so sorry, y'all, I am rambling, but I'm just thinking about my kids. Don't talk about my kids, I'm sorry. Don't talk about my daughter, granddaughter. But don't talk about the stuff. And while I'm standing with the mic, Mayor and everybody else, and all other people, thank you so much for the key to the city, for the parade, for our boys and basketball team. Thank you for honoring our children.
You're welcome. And if there's one point that I would love to make about our traditional public schools versus our charter public schools, is that there is room for both to exist. And I think that's where we have to get to. And if I could get our Board of Education members to recognize that, I think we would be in a much better place. There is room for both of these public schools to coexist, and they are needed. The charters are needed just as much as our traditional public schools are needed. And folks just need to work together. Next question, please.
Good evening. Good evening, John from Field Avenue. Just to follow up to what you said earlier in regards to what it costs to send a kid to a charter school versus the public school. Do you guys post this number on the city website, listing what it costs for those schools so people can actually see and they don't have to question it? Or some of this number posted on what it costs to send a kid to a public versus a charter school? Is it on the city website?
The Board of Education are the one that would post that, or should post that, but it's really public information, and it should be on the board's website. Just like the Charter School Association, that information should also be on the Charter School Association website. We don't have that responsibility. We are very different as a municipality from both the public schools and the charter schools.
I understand that, but as a resident, the first place you would go to is the City of Plainfield website. I think you should release it. I think it will kind of sort of eliminate that question.
If we would get a copy of the budget, we would gladly do that. We would gladly do that if we can receive a copy of the budget. Of the school district's budget.
Okay. That's it.
You have a question up front?
I'm an avid tennis player, and I love the new courts, but they're always locked. You can't go to the track, you go to the track, it's locked. Is the community allowed to use those facilities, or are they just for the school?
That's a very good question, and that would have to be answered by the Plainfield Public Schools. But it is my opinion that that's all public property paid for by your tax dollars and my tax dollars. So just like the track is open to the public, the other facilities ought to be open as well. But you need an answer from the Plainfield Board of Education. You know, one of the things that I forgot to mention when we were talking about money and budgets and so on and so forth, because of the relationships that I do have with so many people across the state, we were able in the last 2 years to secure an additional $50 million in funds for the Plainfield Public Schools. And last year, the governor came here and presented that $30 million, which was $30 million more than the year before. And this year, the Plainfield Public Schools are getting $11.9 million more than they got the year before. So, basically, through advocacy, through partnerships, we continue to advocate each and every day for our Plainfield Public Schools, so them to get the resources that they need. But I just wanted to put that on the record. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Hello? Hi, my name is Ron Scott, 1070 Rose Street. I just wanted to answer your question about tennis courts. I'm a volunteer record worker. We have tennis courts and pickle courts over at Mill Campbell, West 3rd, to get the cross street, and they're lit until 9:30. That's all.
I'd like to ask, I guess, the economic development. When are you all going to do something about downtown Plainfield? It's horrible. I mean, if Westfield can have all the upscale stores, Plainfield can have the upscale outlets. That's how I feel. I grew up in Westfield, and it's always been, for me, and I couldn't wait to get out of there. Of course, I wish I could get back in there now. It's a different story. Seriously, I would like to see Plainfield downtown. I mean, there's no reason to go down there. None whatsoever. I'm embarrassed to say that somebody, says, well, why don't we go somewhere and get something to eat? There's no place to go get anything to eat. I just said to my friend, I said, all of our Latino neighbors, and there's about 50 Latino restaurants. I don't know which ones sell the best food, because I never go. I don't know anything about it. I'd like to see.
So I would encourage you to try marijuanas, try Quantacoramo, try Tradiciones. Food is great, but I'll let the Director Field answer your question.
Sure.
One of the things that
Can you hear me? Yeah. One of the things that we're working on, particularly we get urban enterprise zone funding, or we get $1.5 million per year to look at improving our downtown area for that. We have contracted with a retail recruiter. So with that retail recruiter, they're focusing on, we have a lot of the mixed-use housing, but looking at how do we fill our commercial areas. One of the things that we are working on is looking at things like a supermarket, looking at things like entertainment, looking at boutique hotel, and more diverse restaurant options that we have. So this is something that we're actively focusing on right now. Say that we're focusing on recreation down by North Avenue, the Netherwood train station. We're looking at other restaurants where the mayor mentioned that's within walking distance. I don't know why it keeps going in and out, but looking at the restaurant within walking distance of our Plainfield downtown and what we can have with we're looking at deltas should be construction. The construction should start in July for this. For deltas, and we're hoping to attract other types of restaurants. So we've actually contracted with a retail recruiter so they can work on this. But we agree with you. I remember when I lived in Plainfield growing up with Macy's downtown. Others remember Templeton and different time. But we all remember when we had those anchor stores. We are actively recruiting those anchor stores.
I mean, if you need, I don't know where Stockings anymore, but I mean, if I needed Stockings, I'd have to go on the highway. You know, if I needed whatever. I mean, there's no place downtown to do anything. One of the things that I suggested when I was trying to become more involved as a resident, because we used to do this at the Port Authority. The Port Authority used to loan out executives to various municipalities when they formed Economic Development Task Force. That means that the employer pays for the person who's going to be working for you. They form a task force, and they do like an economic development study to find out what kinds of businesses, feasibility study, would function better in this neighborhood based on the people who live there and need.
So we've already conducted a market analysis, so a part of implementing that market analysis is hiring a retail recruiter to implement that. So we've already looked at the demographics, we looked at the type of services and the industries that would work for Plainfield. And not just Plainfield, but we're looking at the retail catchment area, where we're looking at attracting people up to a 45-minute drive. So definitely agree with you, Plainfield. We have the gift of having 2 train stations. We have a lot of diversity, historic districts that are here. We believe it will be even more of a destination in the future, and we are working on that.
I hope so. We got the most beautiful housing stock in Union County.
Thank you.
In the state.
There's no reason why.
I think there's a lot that goes into what we're talking about, how much we spend on children in our public school. We have, in a lot of cases, we have union workers versus non-union workers, what those numbers are set at. So that's important to take into account. And it's also important to take account that our charter schools get to set their own standards. They're their own districts. So when you get to set your standards for graduation and you have something to prove, there's a lot of different things that you can do and get away with that our public schools cannot do and get away with. In terms of a war between the public schools and the charter schools, as far as I'm concerned, as a longtime life member of the NAACP, we have always taken a position against charter schools because we feel as though they siphon money out of the public school system. They don't support unionized workers, and we're for union, and so it's a lot of things to go along with that. When charter schools first came, you could pick and choose who got there, and so of course if you pick the best, you could take the best to the highest. But when we're talking about schools that have been in existence for 30 years, and our kids, if you're looking at their state standardized test scores, do not compare with districts who are around them. So my simple example is the Olympics. You can have 10 countries running the Olympics. Only 3 of them make the podium. So Plainfield Public Schools is 8, and your charter schools are 6. Neither one of them are on that podium. So we're still paying money for our kids maybe to do better than what we're dealing with in the public school with all their challenges, but they're not dealing with what they have to do when they're compared to everybody else. And in terms of getting into college nowadays, that's a whole other animal about the corporate system that we have in colleges nowadays. We're going to take money, we're going to take anyone. It doesn't necessarily mean that our kids are ready, because a lot of our kids are spending a whole year in remedial courses. You are paying college tuition for remedial courses, so they're not going to college ready for the intense college curriculum. And there are a lot of people here that would not see charter schools as the solution to failing school. They pay big money to send their kids to the best schools. A lot of people buy houses here because you get a beautiful house, not for the amount of money that you would pay a house in Westfield or whatever. You inherit it, and you have enough money to send your kids to private school. But in Union County, and I just need to have this question answered, in Union County we have 21 districts. Plainfield is the only district that sees charter schools as a solution. And we have other school districts that have the same struggles as Plainfield, but they do not decide that we're going to give the kids. If there's space, whatever space the charter schools are using, can't we convert them for the public school? If it's a space issue, they found a space to open up a school. Why can't we go there? So I don't think it's a war, and I don't think that's a fair way to say it. But I do think that, I don't know why, we are selling our kids. And you know that College Achieve there, you know they are being investigated by the Controller's Office in the state. I believe we have what is that? Is it Union County teams? I'm not sure. One of them is on probation from the state right now. They're on probation right now because the kids are not performing. So we do have an issue in terms of how our kids are being educated all together. So why don't we just put it in one system and make it work instead of trying to split it between here and there, and our kids' numbers are still not where they should be in compared to kids who are just to the north, east, south, and west of them. So I kind of think that was unfair to phrase it as a war. And yes, we do love our children. And I know people who work at charter schools, and they have some stories about how kids would earn a certain grade, and they were told they could not get that grade. They were told they had to grade on a generous curve to get them where they have to be. So I don't know. And like I said, this man is making almost $800,000, and this is why he's under investigation. $800,000.
Okay. All right. I thank you for your comments. To the people online and in the audience, I have several members of departments here, from the police director to solid waste and sewer, to information technology and IT, to DPW, to economic development, the business administrator. We have the councilman here from the 3rd Ward. So if the questions that you have for us, we will gladly entertain those questions. Yes.
My name is John Campbell. I reside at 1404 Highland Avenue in this great city. My concern is the 3 apartment complexes where the people were evicted a couple of years ago. Could you please tell me the status of those units as far as the rehabilitation of them? And the second part of my question is, will the people that were evicted have an opportunity to acquire residency in those rehab units? And the next question is, with all of the apartments coming online, have you done an impact study on our sewer infrastructure to make sure that we have adequate capacity to handle these units? Thank you.
Those are all very good questions. I will ask Director Fields to address the issue as it relates to the apartments that were condemned a year or more ago, and what is the current status?
So there were 3 apartment buildings that were condemned. The first one looking over in Kensington. Kensington had a total of 18 units that were available. Those units are currently have been rehabbed. They are up and running. All the units that were condemned, they were sold to a new property owner. The other ones are Arlington. Arlington, I believe it was 32 units. 32 units between the 2 buildings over at 715 Arlington. That just recently came back online. They are currently renting out those 2 buildings as well. The building that had the most severe damage and health and safety issue was the building 501 West 7th Street. They're currently working on rehabilitating that building. They hope to have it done by the summer, the rehabilitation of those buildings. In terms of the residents that once occupied those buildings, some have gone in, but of course we don't have the pre-records to compare them to that. Just to respond to your question about the sewer, we always look at the low capacity for stormwater, for sewage and solid waste, and the connection fee with any development and with any unit or building. So it is looked at in terms of the low capacity.
Good evening. As I said, my name is James Fulton. I'm the superintendent of solid waste and sewer. I just want to assure you, Plainfield has one of the best sewer systems in the state. It is maintained daily, and we are constantly in contact with Parsa, who runs and is most of the sewers in the state. I don't think you have any problems worrying about the sewer system. They're strong and maintained daily. There should be no issues.
Other questions, comments, concerns?
I'm just wondering, are we on track to open up the Westmore Splash Park?
That's a good question. And yes, we are right now. I mean, we're looking at more of it, but it may go a little further out because of supply and demand and some of the weather we had, so that delayed some things that happened. But yes, but we'll be opening definitely this summer. Everything's on track for this part.
Hi, good evening. My name is Azim Gray. The address is 1131 Brunswick Place, Plainfield, New Jersey. So I just have one question. So I know generally public options lower the cost of private options. So I know there's a huge investment that the city is making in broadband access, for example. So I'm just curious as to what is the current sort of update on basically investing in the broadband so we can have wireless access, public wireless access?
Hi, thank you. Janice Clayton Hunt, Director of Information Technology. So we are on track to have public Wi-Fi available to all our residents by the latest September of this year. There will be free Wi-Fi in all of our public parks, as well as in our soon-to-be pedestrian plaza and in all our municipal buildings. Additionally, there will be blanket camera coverage in all these areas, and we'll be working with the police department to mobilize AI tracking for weapon detection. Those are all the things that you as residents will see as the end product. There are other things happening behind the scenes that may not be as readily visible, but yeah, we're on track with that to mobilize that by September the latest. It could happen before.
Seems like every more satisfied? You all good? No questions on them, Jazz?
No questions on that.
No questions on your mind that you really want to ask that you didn't ask as of yet? All right.
Do we have an emergency plan in case, I know we're not going to talk about politics, in case they come into Plainfield and try to enslave us or whatever the case may be? Do we have an emergency plan working?
Yeah, you don't have to.
It ain't looking good for us.
We will be fine. You don't have
We're
to.
going to be all right?
Yeah, we will be all right. You don't have to worry about that. But while I got the mic, I want to say something really quick. You guys talked a little bit about the downtown area. One of the biggest issues with the downtown area is that the police department has to do its job and deem it safe for people who want to come out. The downtown area is safe, and it's become a lot safer because of all the men and women sitting up here. The Director of Economic Development, Zenobia Fields, obtained funding for us to purchase a mobile precinct. You may have seen it riding around town. That vehicle parks in the downtown area, and we basically have a police department on wheels, so we can use it in the middle of downtown. We can use it down on the Clinton Avenue corridor, which is part of the UEC zone. We can use it out on South Avenue, but that vehicle allows us to have boots on the ground pretty much anywhere in town that we need to be. Through it and through some of our other efforts, we have made the downtown much safer. But it's obviously a work in progress, so we're going to keep working on that. But I do ask you to go into downtown, visit some of the restaurants that the mayor mentioned. Some of them are very, very good. Go out and have a meal, enjoy some time with your family, feel safe down there, because we are doing our best to make it, to get it back to once what it was. It's a work in progress, but we're working hard on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have an online question.
Yeah, there's a question online from Ms. Freeman. It says, can we get striping done on 5th Street from Plainfield Ave to Watchung Ave? It's a 2-lane road and the line markings are almost non-existent.
Repeat that question, please.
Can we get striping done on 5th Street from Plainfield Ave to Watchung Ave? It's a 2-lane road and line markings are almost non-existent.
Okay, Director Dabney?
Yes, it's a good question. Yes, we'll be working on that. That'll be coming as we're going on Route 28, getting that done. But that'll be part of everything that we do in terms of making sure we get the strike in that area. Look into it and make sure that's addressed. Yes.
This month is Autism Awareness Month. And I did publish an editorial last week, I believe last week, Thursday or Friday, that spoke about autism and why we all should play an active role in making sure that we recognize the importance of this month. And many people in the city have kids, family members that are on the spectrum, and we need to do all that we can as a community to make sure that we take care of those who are in need of assistance. Our Plainfield Police Department recently wrapped one of our police vehicles to show support for autism in general, but to recognize this month as Autism Awareness Month. And I believe, Police Director, that we put something in place that allows our members of Plainfield PD to recognize any child who has autism and who comes in contact with our PD. Can you speak about that?
Yes, there are actually several things in place, Mayor. One of them is the Special Needs Registry. There's a link to that registry on the City of Plainfield webpage. If you go to that webpage and you go under the police department, and the icons on the side, it's a registry to register your child, so that if your child has any contacts with the police department, we respond to your residence, or we have the child's name and information. We treat the child completely different because we know that there are some issues there that need to be addressed. Too many times children are hurt in this country because through them being nonverbal or there being some issue and an officer is giving commands, they think that either they're being ignored or they're being disrespected or something of that nature. So we have things in place to deal with that. Also, the County of Union has something called a Blue Envelope Program. The Blue Envelope Program is a program where you fill out your child fills out, you fill out the information on the outside of this blue envelope. All of their information that will go inside a vehicle is placed in there, the license, registration, insurance. So if there is an issue with a police officer, instead of them having to talk to the officer, we're teaching children, young adults to just hand the officer the envelope. The envelope is self-explanatory and it will de-escalate a situation. We're doing, as the mayor said, we're doing everything in our power to make sure that we take care of our children with all types of different special needs. We want to make the community aware of the things that we are doing so that they feel comfortable when they're around the police department. Our police department is a community-based police department now. So we're doing everything we can to meet the needs of our community. Thank you.
First of all, I just want to thank the mayor and the police director. I am a parent of a child, he's an adult, with autism. And I remember struggling to get this city to even collaborate on this very important initiative of safety. And I met the mayor at an event. He was having this little private time, and I popped over and I asked him about his autism awareness. And I talked to him about my struggles with my son and how concerned I would be if an officer came into my home and my son would not be able to respond. He just would not. He does not have that capability. And he said, send me an email. And I thought, this is a regular politician just pushing me away, go away. But no, he answered me. And we had a meeting. And out of that meeting came this very important registry. So if you know anyone with special needs, whether it's autism, Down syndrome, mental illness, please have them register. It is very important. And the mayor failed to mention something very important. Sergeant Keisha Day is here, and his police department in this town, we are now part of New Jersey Autism, where we have presented in New Jersey Autism, and our presentation was on collaboration with a colorful conversation, the African Americans community in autism. And the reason why we're there is because nobody looked like us at the table. But now we have somebody that looks like us. Now Sergeant McRae over there, I want to give her recognition. Because not only did we do it this year, but they said come back. So we're doing it again. We got a part 2. So thank you, Mayor. I mean, I wasn't going to say anything, but that touched my heart because that's something very close to me. So thank you.
Good evening, Laura Campbell, 1404 Highland Avenue. 2 things. One, on the road closures, is it possible that we could get further, more advance notice of when roads are going to be closed? I do think it's helpful that it's posted on the website, but if we could get a little further advance notice on when the road closures are going to take place, because for many of us, for me in particular, I don't know that the road is closed until I ride the street. And that's because I don't read on a daily basis the city website. But if there could be some further advance notice, more advance notice of when these road closures are going to take place, it would be helpful. My other question is, in terms of the certificate of compliance for the sale of homes, it would be helpful if it could be digitized. The fire department does digitize their form, and it's very helpful because it expedites the whole process of setting up schedules and all of that. So that would be something that would be very helpful. And of course, my never-ending concern about traffic in town, and if there is some kind of strategic plan that is in place that would make it more sense traveling through town. Right now, the congestion, especially in the morning and the afternoons and school dismissals, it's crazy. So if the police department could think about some strategic way of making this thing, more accessible for drivers, that would help. Thank you.
I'm sorry, you gave me a lot of information there. What was the first question again? I don't want to miss it.
First question was road closures and having a more advanced notice of when they're going to occur.
Okay. In terms of road closures, we will try, I promise you, ma'am, we will try our best to give you more notice. What generally happens sometimes is that because of scheduling issues or emergencies that may happen with PSE&G or American Water, their schedule may change. So then we wind up moving around town and doing smaller jobs and smaller crews. That's generally the reason why we only are able to give that kind of that warnings notice. But I promise you I will work with my people at the PD and with the utilities and do our best to try to give you more up-to-date road closures. Now, if they're just pavement of roads, okay, I'll work with Director Dabney, usually I've got scheduled out a little bit earlier, and we'll be able to let you know that a little bit earlier. So we'll work that out. It'll take us a little time, but we'll work that out. In terms of traffic throughout the city, we're always looking at traffic and innovative ways to improve it because of the construction or whatever else we have going on. So you will see a study come out soon in regards to, especially the downtown area, because that's where most of our traffic concerns are. They're not out by Muhlenberg Hospital or far in the east or west end. It's mainly in this downtown corridor, Park Avenue, Watchung Avenue, Central Avenue, and a number of streets in between. So we are looking at something, and we will have something else.
I believe there's a part of the question that I believe Director Fields.
So your question about the certificate of compliance, we have those forms available online in a PDF format, but we can look into creating Microsoft forms, which will be a digital form that you can fill out, and it'll be a database that's populated. Right now, we're working with the Director of IT, Jazz Clayton Hunt. We are updating our record systems. That includes any of our property records, any of our permit applications. That'll be available later in the year, where hopefully it'll be more user-friendly and you'll have the interface, but I think it's a good suggestion to make sure that you can fill out a Microsoft form online.
Well, okay, so we have one more.
How everybody doing? My name is Alejandro, 1480 Bradford Street. I'm nervous, I don't talk. But I just want to add on, when she started talking about traffic, my mother lived on 6th Street. I'm just curious, on Sunday, the St. Mary's Church, is this okay for them to park on that side of the street where it says no parking at all? On a Sunday, I understand, I just giving them a break on Sunday.
You want an honest answer?
Because I'm saying the same when we go there.
Personally, I don't believe in giving tickets to people who are going to church.
Okay, so Sunday's okay.
If you're not really in the middle of the intersection, we're really not going to try to ticket you. If we can still maneuver in a fire truck and get through that area, we kind of try to cut people a break. If we get complaints, obviously we have to respond to that. But that goes for every church. Every church, mosque, anything in town. On a Sunday or on their Sabbath, you tend not to ticket people who are going to church, whatever function that is. Now that's my personal thing, and I think that's a community thing. I think that's part of the police department being a part of the community. You know, we got to be thoughtful of our residents. So that's kind of what that's about. But if somebody calls and they complain, then we have no option.
No, but
We have to.
I called for my mother several times because they blocked her.
Did they come or not write a ticket or what happened?
Sometimes it take a while for the police to come, but when they do come, I mean, the one car move, another one come. They block the driveway all the time.
Okay.
And the sign is right in front of her house.
If that's an issue, get in contact with me and we'll work that out. We'll work something out with the church and everybody so everybody's there.
Not on church, but this is a weekday.
Well,
on weekdays, no. On weekdays, you write tickets.
Because the church is having something like every day.
Well, no, I'm just talking about Sunday. Now, if they have services and revival and all this stuff, no, it's wide open.
And
Sunday, no.
And I politely go outside and tell them you can't park there. You know what they do?
No, don't tell
And I'm
anybody.
like, sir, you can't park here.
Don't tell anybody.
I'm
Call
just
the
asking,
cops.
I know Amazon sells stickers.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to do that? Like, say I can.
Not on somebody else's car, absolutely.
I'm just saying.
Absolutely not. Call the police department and we'll take care of it.
Okay,
We'll take care of it. You're paying us to do it. We'll take care of it.
No problem.
Thank you.
So as the police director said, the last thing we want to do is to be issuing tickets to church goers on Sundays. We don't want to do that. But no one should be parking in front of your driveway. No one should be blocking your driveway, whether it's Sunday, Monday, whatever it is. They should not be doing that. So I would say that's where enforcement comes in. But in terms of the regular parking by churchgoers on the curb or the smallest space that they can find so they can get into church, I personally don't have a problem with that.
What about all the tickets that are issued to the resident? Because they can't even get in their driveway.
So I'm saying,
they wait for someone to move, and then the police come by, give me a ticket, I'm living here.
no, I'm saying that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable for anyone to be blocking.
Not on Sunday. I'm talking about Monday through Saturday.
Oh, that's totally unacceptable.
Yes.
And should not be tolerated, and our PD should be enforcing the
Do we
rule.
get a refund for the ticket? I just thought I was going to
If there's a car parked in front of a driveway on any day of the week, it's going to get ticketed. If
No,
you're
we're
parked,
getting a ticket because we can't park in our driveway because someone's blocking it, is what I'm saying.
okay, so
Do we get a refund after that?
do you call the cops and we come and have to move the car?
Yeah, but again, like you said, they're moving.
See, the issue is like we got to park around the corner because there's nowhere to park. I mean, it's crazy.
Do this. Take down my number. You got my number, right, man? Call me tomorrow and we'll discuss it like offline, all right?
And remember, we're talking about West 6th Street, where you're putting a four-way stop.
Three-way. At Liberty and
Well,
Sixth.
it said four-way.
Right, but it's really.
Oh, we understand it's three-way. Thank you.
But if you have that issue at any time, please make sure you call the director, because you should not be penalized for what you just described.
Right, because mom is 88, okay, so she's not going to get out there and say anything to anyone. Okay, and plus it will be against our safety to say anything to someone at her age.
God forbid they do. Think about something else.
So,
Can I read a comment from online? It's not a question, but Shanice Shan says, thankful to Sergeant Kay Bethia and her efforts toward autism awareness. And I would like to let you know that I actually appreciate the diversity of the restaurants in downtown Plainfield.
thank you for that comment. Shanice, we thank you. The hour has arrived. We appreciate all those online. We appreciate all of you for coming out and having this conversation with us. So we thank you, and may God bless you.